Hey, Mark Sconti reporting from Washington Square Park. Look who I got here, man. You're going to love this guy, man. You're going to love this guy. Remember this guy? This is the guy from, he was on the front page of the New York Post. Front page of the New York Post. He is my friend. Calls himself Jesus. And give you the mic. So he's going to tell us what happened. The Post smeared the high hell out of him as some kind of crazy guy, but he's actually one of the most sane people I've ever met in this park. And we're going to hope that dog stops barking. Pain in the ass. So
hello everybody. It's been a little while since I've been on the camera. I don't have a phone right now, so anybody who follows my pages, Fire Sapien on Instagram, and also Son of God, Lord Savior Jesus Christ, apologize for not posting recently. You could definitely check me out there if you haven't heard of me before. Essentially, what I think this video is going to be doing is going over a recap to clarify a lot of the events that happened right in that fountain there. Now, I'm probably going to be moving back in when the water turns off, but I might also go to New Orleans to just get a change of pace, because a third winter in New York, not really necessary for me right now. So, from what I recall of reading the article in the New York Post was that it was portraying me as simply a homeless man who had moved into a fountain. And some would definitely say, yeah, I would even say that's half true. But it didn't really cover the full story. It didn't really speak in a way that was becoming of what I was trying to do while being in the fountain.
How long were you out? How long were you living by the fountain before they decided that to evict you from the fountain?
I was in there probably 4 to 5 weeks total, maybe a bit under 4 at that, because what had happened was the reason I was allowed to stay, so to speak, was for one, I wasn't committing any crimes, and two, I was peacefully protesting. And the article that was written did mention this, but it didn't say what I was protesting, even though I had written it out and told the reporter that. The funny thing also being, I never actually was told that it would be made into a story. They just said they're collecting information about the protests in general. So the thing is, I was peacefully protesting treason, because what I understand...
Protesting Jesus?
No, treason.
Oh, treason.
So, aiding and abetting the enemy of the state, of the government, of the people.
Right.
Now, what I understand of law is really simple. And we're going to go a little bit back here. Now, every nation in the world has founded its domain through God's sovereignty. What I mean by that is because no man can actively claim to be God, so to speak. Even Jesus was Son of Man, and only after death was he made to be Son of God. No one ever declared anyone outright to be God. So no man could come in a government or in a private capacity and say, I am God, I am the sovereign of this land, and I am calling to take back my home, so to speak. Until some big major power up in the sky comes down with huge armadas and all that fun shit, we're stuck. Not able to touch the nationality of our government, so to speak. The funny thing being is that's not how it really works. Now, man can claim a godliness, and if you follow a specific religious code or a practice, and you are the most holy of that people, you can claim in some capacity to be of God's word. And you can use God's word in your writing and in your verbal speech and your community and the active participation of people therein to be able to affect how the world works. Because let's face it, God is simply everything. This is the truth. Things we can name and things we can't.
So let's get into the part where so this is your philosophy.
Hey, you might need to speak into this.
So this is your philosophy. This is the essence of what you were preaching. And why did they? What I want to know is why did they decide? Did you get a warning to get out of the fountain? They never warned you. And tell me about that day, because the way the Post reported it is that they shot you up with something because you wouldn't leave. So tell me about that. That's what the Post. Tell us what happened.
So this isn't quite the essence of my philosophy. This is legal understanding. That I need to clarify that. Because the law
Right.
stipulates that, you need to go in a manner becoming of it, right?
Hold on a second.
I got it.
Put that shit on. Technical difficulty.
It comes from a philosophical and religious view, but it is a legal code. When you are able to uphold the full law, then you are able to be in control of the law and to dictate what people could do therein afterwards. Because you are the one most responsible.
They were illegally trying to shut you up.
Yeah, totally illegally shutting me up.
Shut you up.
Imagine how hard it is to be able to post to a social media platform.
Oh yeah.
First you need a phone, you need an internet connection, you need to be able to use your words right. Then you need to get it out there. It's not just me they're shutting up. They being people in control of our law. We have people who have 1,250 years of debt standing on our future. And I mean this literally. Their feet are printed in law, holding ground, saying the people, the public, is going to pay me through the tax system this much money over this much time.
Right.
When 2008 happened, FTC Global, EDC Global, and Laurel Cove Development Corporation were three of the primary responsibles corporations and designations in regards to that debt. You could find it in the legalese on Westlaw, which is a lawyer's forum.
Corporations have been stealing billions of dollars from us.
It's not
for
stealing.
Years and years.
You could say public works, like the roads, is not stealing. It's community building.
Right.
The simple truth is,
community that satisfies them and not the
exactly,
the
it satisfies them and not the rest of us.
Right.
It lets them have their future and not us ours.
Right.
The reason I am here trying to do this in part is because I know people are being educated into slavery.
Right.
It's not simply you're going to get a job and be okay the rest of your life. No. You're being forced to choose a specific role to play in a system you don't have a choice in saying where it goes or how it ends up working. And that's really bad because, like the scientists in Nazi Germany, they didn't.
Do you think that the New York Post, leave it there. Do you think that the New York Post was attacking you for your opinion, or, what was the final
The New York
straw?
Post just wanted a story.
They wanted a story.
They wanted something that
and
could.
The park department.
It's
wanted
shock
you out.
value.
Okay.
Hey, here's a crazy guy talking about being Jesus. Another one bites the dust.
Are you Jesus? Do you think so? We're all Jesus.
We all are. Some people are active Jesus, some people are passive Jesus, some know, some don't know.
Are we Buddha too? Probably Buddha too, a little Buddha.
I like to say I'm a son of God because I am everything that has come to make me. I say I'm Jesus because I'm a son of love, of light, of life, and peace, and good things holy. Because I care about what Jesus spoke about, I am taking on his resurrection. That is part of the point of the resurrection of the cross.
And after 30, you said you were in the park more than 30 days, correct?
Yeah, I was.
So that means you have squatters' rights.
No. In New York, in government land, it's 20 years. You need to be regularly within a land for 20 years, actively maintaining it and possibly upgrading it to be able to claim that for public land.
So take us to that day. That day, the police and the park
Well, there's a
department
lot that led up to that
said,
day.
Get out, right. And said get out, and then what?
Nobody said get out, but their actions spoke louder than their words.
Okay.
What it was because I had practiced my preach and had become free of sin in my code, which is to say I had stopped choosing between good and evil. And started to just simply obey God. Don't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's a tree. It's knowledge. It's a tree of knowledge. And then it's a tree of knowledge which is good and evil. When we say, oh, this is good for you, oh, this is bad for you, do this, don't do that, we're casting our judgments. I stopped casting judgments, and I just simply did what I had to do, what I felt was right. And, knowing that people were put into slavery to provide clothing. Half of the cotton in the world right now is founded through literal, slavery. Half of the cotton in circulation is recirculated and recycled slave-based cotton. All the synthetic materials we have in our world right now, they're made through mass cheap labor in third world and second world countries.
Sure.
And our political scape is meant to protect the people who own the rights to the businesses, to the shares, to the stocks, whatever you want to call it, to those places. Because they're saying, it costs too much to produce it here, I'm going to make less here. If I did it here, I'm going to go there, I'm going to lift people up, so to speak, because I'm the only one providing work, and then I'm going to sell it back to you at a much increased cost, because guess what, I can. And I've got the government in my pocket. When people let that system run, when we can't come out here and sit and say, I'm done working for something that's broken and corrupt and against my and all my people's interests, our people's interests, guess what? If we could do that, we get to make a new system. We get to congregate together and say, okay, this one isn't working right anymore. Let's try something new. But when Jesus, someone who's claiming to be Jesus and practicing it by being peaceful, by being loving, by helping, by doing good things, isn't allowed to go and do that, everybody else who isn't Jesus is going to think, he can't do it. This guy's the best thing going. You know, he's not hurting nobody. He's trying to help. And they're not letting someone who wants to help. So the masses who've witnessed what I did, all the people, the locals in the park who saw what happened, guess what? They back off. And then the system falls apart that could have been built. And the old one takes over because it's the thing that's still left. So this
cycle,
is,
isn't it?
yeah,
It
they don't need to tell you to shut up to make your voice be as if it was quiet. You know, there's a few people who could come through and really shine light, but there's other people who have much bigger lights that are paying other people to give it to them, X, Y, and Z, all the way down the line, you know. So this is really the crux of the matter. How are we as a people able to use our voices constructively?
You got people behind us right now. They're protesting this, that, and the other thing. They hate Trump. They hate.
We go forward.
They hate the Supreme Court.
Well, Ruth Bader Ginsburg wasn't the shiningest person in the room either.
Right.
She ruled in regards to religious doctrine that the law says you shouldn't make any law regarding. You know, do not respect an establishment of religion. As soon as a religious group comes into your courtroom and says, hey, rule on my interest, you're respecting an establishment of religion. So she may have been one of the few women in government in a high place, but did she do something real with that by stand up with a strong bat? You know, did she say, hey, I'm not going to rule on this, I'm abstaining? No.
Final question. So we're less than 20 days away from an election. I want Jesus's prediction. Who will win the 2020 election? Who will get more votes?
Trump is a little more lucid than Biden. I think a lot of people are going to think about that. I think Biden is just as establishment as Trump, except he's on a different part of it, a different wall of a room, so to speak. And I think based off the paintings of each part of that room, it isn't going to change much of what actually ends up happening.
Right. But the question was, who does Jesus think is going to win? Because
no
people
one.
want to know who's going to win.
No one's going to win. Whoever gets elected, it's still a loss, because the problems that are manifest in our world that are causing these things, like say homelessness in New York City, because the Post wanted to speak about that part of my life. Look at the 1-2-3 agreement. It's the only part of the government that actually can actively get somebody housing, and it still takes 6 months to 2 years to get a mentally ill person into one of those apartments. On top of that, the way it works and the way corporations and nonprofits and government agencies and entities work together on that, there's no fluid process for it. There's no cohesive togetherness for these people to operate.
Right.
It's literally only when they're all together in a mass that a decision can be made. And half the time, those decisions don't get made until other people in rooms somewhere I haven't been to yet got to speak to me, which they haven't. So we need to restructure the legalese of which our government runs, okay? We need to rewrite the legislature that is operating in regards to everything from housing to energy to environmental protection to human rights. And we need to clearly say, well, this is what this word means. Instead of leaving things up and open to interpretation, we need to clearly define with dictionaries and indexes and appendixes and encyclopedias, all these things. And we need to say, this is what I mean. Because until that happens, when they say, oh, your rights may be limited for clinical reasons, or you may be unable to receive services when operating in this capacity, or any number of things. I haven't read the whole book yet. It's a lot. So we need to say, is this right? Is this going to help people who are being exception to, or is it going to cause more adverse effects? By disabling some rights and enabling others, because that does happen when it comes to interactions between parties who hold different statuses and different empowerments and authorities. Say your right to free speech may be limited or may be used against you when receiving medical care or when going before a judge, because that judge has the right to use the words you speak against you. Other people don't, but they do. It's called right sizing. And it's another important part of our law. And when it comes to presidencies and voting, it's the tip of an iceberg. They want you to vote so they could say our people are empowered and that they authorize us to do this, so they could fulfill the law. But they don't tell you what else you need to do. They don't tell you to speak to the legislative members, the people not who you elect, but who are running in the back offices of the elected officials' building. The people that elected official says, hey, write me up a draft. That's who we need to speak to. And we need to say, hey, why are you writing this like this? What's the real reason behind it? How is limiting some people, or how is not providing people with these other things actually doing something that's helping the government and the law and the people at large, or the people singularly, you know?
All right. Thank you very much for
that
good interview, man.
Yeah.
What else you want to?
That is the crux of the matter. That is why I feel every government.
Say fuck you to the New York Post, or you want to say thank you very much for the opportunity?
I'd like to say the New York Post did it all wrong, but got it all right. They did it all wrong by putting a lot of half-truths and half-lies, but they did it all right by bowing to God by doing it. Because the law and God and the religious interpretation I could put forth could totally skewer them. So.
Very good. Marcus Conte reporting.